Day. I give you Steve. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you so much for being here today. Um, and good afternoon. Thank you as well, everyone, for your support of Selwood Soto Zen. And this afternoon, I'd like to talk a little bit about our practice. When we practice, we frequently think we are doing something special, maybe even something profound. We sit zazen, we chant sutras, discuss the three treasures with gravity. The ringing of bells, bowing, and chanting are all part of our practice. This sense of gravitas has most likely been part of our practice from the beginning. And many of us, I'm sure, began practicing Zen with this in our hearts and in our minds. To unpack our understanding, we would like to turn to one of the best koan collections. I would like to do this anyway. The Mumonkan, the Gateless Gate. A koan or public case is a story, usually involving Buddha or an ancestor, and is meant to evoke or stimulate enlightenment, often by preventing or confounding our tendency for rational analysis. A koan is a teaching tool for our practice, especially in the Rinzai, or in Chinese, the Lin Chi Zen tradition. The Mumonkan was compiled by Wumen Hoi Kai in the 13th century. And I'd like to talk about the seventh koan in the Mumonkan. For those of you who are more of a fan of the Book of Serenity, which is a bit more popular in the Soto tradition, it is the 39th koan in the Book of Serenity. This case involves the Tang Dynasty teacher Cao Zhou, in Japanese Joshu. He was born in 778 of the Common Era and lived to apparently the ripe old age of 119 years old, if the historical record is to be believed. The case, Cao Zhou's Wash Your Bowl, or Joshu Senpatsu in Japanese. And it goes like this. A monk asked Cao Zhou, I have just entered this monastery. Please, teach me. Have you eaten your rice porridge? Asked Zhao. Yes, I have, replied the monk. Then you'd better wash your bowl, said Zhao. The compiler Wu Men wrote a poem to go with the koan, endeavoring to interpret clearly. You retard your attainment. Don't you know that flame is fire? Your rice has long been cooked. This koan has several things to say. At the most basic, what we are doing today, our practice, is in fact quite ordinary. We arise each day, wash our face, and sit. We turn to the light inward and follow our breath. There's nothing heroic or extraordinary to see here. Our practice is ordinary. It's part of our life, what we do day to day. As noted by Shunryu Suzuki Roshi in Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind, Zen is not some kind of excitement, but concentration on our usual, ordinary routine. End quote. By focusing on our everyday life and practicing in a steady, quiet way, we are incorporating our practice into the life we live, not striving for something extraordinary and outside of ourselves. Our practice is who we are each day. Suzuki Roshi goes on to state, quote, just continue in your calm, ordinary practice, and your character will be built up. If your mind is always busy, then there will be no time to build and you will not be successful, particularly if you work too hard on it. Building character is like making bread. You have to mix it little by little by little, step by step, and moderate temperature is needed. You know yourself quite well, and you know how much temperature you need. You know exactly what you need. But if you get too excited, you'll forget how much temperature is good for you, and you'll lose your own way. This is very dangerous, end quote. I sometimes bake bread. Several of you have been perhaps the victim of my bread. I know that a steady focus on the basics with patience and attention to what I'm doing will produce good bread. If I'm distracted, do not work in a calm, focused, and steady manner, then I'll make a mistake. My bread will not be as good as it could be. Bread should not be so special. We humans have been baking bread in some form for thousands of years. It's part of who we are, part of our ordinary life. Baking bread is also an opportunity for practice, for steady focus on the task at hand. In the poem accompanying this koan, Wu Mun states, endeavoring to interpret clearly, you retard your attainment, end quote. When we try to understand our practice in an intellectual way, to explain what we are doing, we can go wrong. Ironically, I'm making this mistake now, this very moment describing what we are doing this afternoon. A conceptual understanding of our practice is not our true practice. It's something extra. When we try to explain our practice, we are trying to rationally articulate something that is intuitive, something that is innately part of who we are and beyond description. Sometimes an intellectual understanding helps to illuminate what we are doing, but it is not a true understanding of our practice. Wu Mun next says, don't you know that flame is fire? Our rice has long been cooked, end quote. There's nothing else needed. We're enlightened and aware just as we are. We struggle only because we fail to see our true nature, our Buddha nature. There's a saying that I like a lot. We should not mistake the finger pointing at the moon for the moon. The finger pointing at the moon is not the moon. A conceptual description of our practice is not our practice. Just as we sometimes need a finger pointing at the moon to direct our attention, sometimes we need to talk about our practice to understand where to begin, how to sustain what we're doing. The finger pointing at the moon is not the moon itself. The Soto Zen monk and poet Ryokan stated, relying upon a finger, we see the moon. Relying upon the moon, we understand the finger. Moon and finger are neither the same nor different. This expedient analogy is for guiding beginners. Having seen reality as it is, there is neither moon nor finger. In the poem, when Wu Mun asks, do you know that flame is fire? He's asking us if we experience our lives directly. Do we perceive hot and cold by feeling hot and cold? Do we perceive that true understanding comes from the direct experience of our life, our practice moment to moment? The practice of Zen is experiencing our lives directly. This is first Nen consciousness, direct experience of what is before us, not filtered by our conceptions or rational thought. Excuse me. When I was a small child, maybe 5 years old, my mother was standing in the living room of our home ironing. As I approached, she admonished me to be careful, that the iron was hot. I, of course, planted the palm of my hand on the hot iron, blistering my whole hand. Sometimes paying attention is also important. This was a lesson that took me a number of years to learn. But it is not, but it is experience that teaches most directly. I no longer touch an iron to see if it's hot. This idea that direct experience is the best teacher is not unique to Buddhism, not even unique to East Asian culture. Roger Bacon, born in Somerset, England, was a Franciscan friar who lived from 1220 to 1292 of the Common Era and taught at the University of Paris. He would state, quote, "Reasoning draws a conclusion and makes us grant the conclusion, but does not make the conclusion certain, nor does it remove doubt so that the mind may rest in the intuition of truth, unless the mind discovers it by the path of experience." End quote. 7 centuries later, Suzuki Roshi stated, quote, "Our body and mind are both two and one. We usually think that if something is not one, it is more than one. If it is not singular, it is plural. But in actual experience, our life is not only plural, but also singular. Each one of us is both dependent and independent." End quote. In the same way, we can see our practice as both two and one. Our intellectual understanding of Zen, our grasp of Dharma, and the desire to experience our true nature are not the same as the intimate experience of sitting and following our breath. We may learn something about our practice from books such as Zen Mind Beginner's Mind. My bookshelf behind me is full of such books. This is, however, not the direct experience of our practice. Each morning, I bow to my altar, make an offering to Buddha, and I sit following my breath. This is the direct experience of Zazen. This is a true understanding of practice. I'd like to quote briefly Robert Aiken Roshi in his discussion of Case 7 in the Mumonkan. Here a monk enters the monastery and makes a polite request. "Please teach me." Couched in humble language is a challenge. "Here I am, a new student. What do you have to teach me?" Although the monk was new to Kuan Yin Yuan, he was apparently already well along in his practice. A person completely accomplished in the Tao, for example, might have framed his first words to Zhao Zhou in such a way. It was a seasoned presentation, an offer to enter into a conspiracy with Zhao Zhou to establish something only the two of them could create. Zhao Zhou's response, "Have you eaten your rice gruel?" Zhao Zhou is politely asking if the monk has been fed. Fundamentally, however, he's offering a challenge in response to a challenge, an essential question. End quote. Each of us faces the same question. How do we practice? How do we understand our practice? Do we understand what we are doing? Can we manifest our practice? When the bell rings 3 times, we sit and begin Zazen. When the bell rings at the end of Zazen, we bow and stand. This seems simple enough. I think, in a sense, we're on a razor's edge. The practice of Zazen is simple. We sit, we follow our breath, we quiet our mind. Yet, We can say so much about what we're doing. Ehe Dogen, in the Tanahashi translation of the Shobogenzo, states in Fukan Zazenji, his first written work after coming back to Japan from China, he takes 1,060 words to describe Zazen. He takes a great deal of time and care to describe something simple and straightforward. Yet he also states, quote, "You should therefore cease from practice based on intellectual understanding, pursuing words, and following after speech, and learn the backward step that turns your light inward to eliminate yourself," end quote. In Fukan Zazenji is also this pearl: body and mind of themselves will drop away, and your original face will be manifest. The original face, sometimes called the face before we were born, is our mind before discursive thought, before thinking with our rational mind. Dogen in Zazen Shin, the point of Zazen, states, quote, "Yao Shan, great master Hong Dao, was sitting. A monk asked him, 'In steadfast sitting, what do you think?' Yao Shan said, 'Think non-thinking.' 'How do you think non-thinking?' Yao Shan replied, 'Beyond thinking.' Realizing these words of Yao Shan, you should investigate and receive the authentic transmission of steadfast sitting. This is the thorough study of steadfast sitting transmitted in the Buddha way." The monk said, "How do you think non-thinking?" However ancient non-thinking is, still we are asked how to think, end quote. We each have a lifetime of thinking, of rationalization, of what is in our lives. How do we consider our understanding and the thoughts that continue to arise? What is the relationship between Zazen and wisdom? We should not think that our practice of Zazen and wisdom, prajna, are different, separate. This is from Red Pine's translation of the Platform Sutra. Quote, "Good friends, this Dharma teaching of mine is based on meditation and wisdom. But don't make the mistake of thinking that meditation and wisdom are separate. Meditation and wisdom are of one essence and not two. Meditation is the body of wisdom, and wisdom is the function of meditation. Wherever you find wisdom, you find meditation. And wherever you find meditation, you find wisdom. Good friends, what this means is that meditation and wisdom are the same. Fellow students of the way, be careful. Don't think that meditation comes first and then gives rise to wisdom, or that wisdom comes first and then gives rise to meditation, or that meditation and wisdom are separate. For those who hold such views, the Dharma is dualistic. If the mouth speaks of goodness, but the mind does not think of goodness, meditation and wisdom are not the same. But if goodness pervades both the mouth and the mind, if what is external and internal are alike, then meditation and wisdom are the same." End quote. This then is our task, to sit each day and turn the light inward. This is both simple and profound, straightforward and illusory. Our practice, Zazen and Prajna wisdom, are the same, two yet one. How we practice is the work of a lifetime, moment to moment, day to day. I'd like to end with a poem about Zen meditation by the Qing Dynasty Buddhist nun, Yi Kuei, translated as First Principle. She lived from 1625 to 1679. Chan meditation. Once the layered gates are shattered, any place is a place of tranquility. Once the mind becomes unattached to things, all things become pure. In moments of leisure, I sit upright in the shade of the pine tree, watching as the toad in the moon slowly rises to hover in the east. When one freely speaks of the Dharma, the heavenly flowers fall. When one deliberates and debates, one is only confused by things. With the right opportunity and good fortune, nothing is impossible. Knocking on emptiness, extracting the marrow, becomes a way of life. How wonderfully sublime to discuss mysteries layered like clouds. It is truly rare to meet someone who can be called a kindred soul. The red stove blazes forth with an extraordinary determination, as if it possessed the karmic power to turn the Dharma wheel. The toiling life and confused by lust and greed and anger, but when the mind flower suddenly opens, the world becomes spring. Melting snow to boil tea for water for tea, I while away the entire day feeling inside as vast and expansive as the icy cold moon above. A tiny boat in the moonlight stirs up foam flowers on the water. Blossoming water lilies send across their fragrances in the dark. Hearing, seeing, knowledge, and consciousness are all one Dharma. Now this nun can afford to be lazy and let her hair grow long. Thank you so much.
Steve, thanks. Let's sit for a little while. I'll ring a bell. I hope it